obviously there's a huge amount of unanswered questions about this tragic event because, it's a bit of a mystery why the aircraft landed with the wheels up, and it appeared to be going extremely fast on this runway with indications that the engines might have been delivering a bit of thrust. So, obviously we would like to know why both of those things, if indeed they were pushing it on, you would be trying to slow down. And normally with a wheels-up landing, the aircraft would slow up fairly quickly, and this one didn't. So there are a few questions that we need answers to.
I mean, the idea of a wheels-up landing sounds, of course, completely terrifying. Can that sort of thing be done relatively safely?
Well, there's always a considerable element of risk. It has happened before without too much drama, usually when there's been time for plenty of preparation. Now, we don't really know what problems this crew were trying to deal with. Obviously, there's film of and suggestions of a bird strike, which may well have disabled one engine. But obviously, if it also damaged in some way the other engine, then they would be put in quite a difficult situation.
And so, I mean, just to sort of understand what you were saying to begin with, it sounds like then, so although it was sort of, as one might say, sort of belly up on the ground without its wheels down, it seems like the engines were still delivering power, so sort of speeding it up.
That's what it looks like, and there's a bit of sound effect that sounds like that. I mean, obviously, you could come up with probably a dozen different possible scenarios based on guesswork. But, you would expect normally, if it were only one engine disabled, that the crew would be able to sit in a hold above the airport and sort themselves out, get the landing gear down using the alternate system, and then land normally. But obviously, if they were faced with double power loss, then they would have been in a very difficult situation and may have had very limited time.
What's the process now? What happens in terms of trying to figure out what happened? What resources have kind of teams on the ground got to draw upon?
Well, the two data recorders have been recovered, and they should provide basically the answers that we're all seeking. They can be downloaded and decoded within a couple of weeks. If whoever has the correct facilities, they might go I don't know whether Koreans have the facilities for that. They probably do. Otherwise, Boeing or the US or the UK or any number of other investigative bodies would help with that. And obviously, once we can see what was going on with the aircraft and what the crew were saying to one another, we should get pretty definitive answers. But how long that will take, of course, is unknown.
Boeing as a company has had a rather tough year. Will this make it considerably worse, do you think?
Well, I mean, I suppose it doesn't help. But to be honest, I doubt whether the fact that it was a Boeing is in any way that relevant. I mean, it could have happened if it was a bird strike-induced incident. Then that could have happened to any aircraft. But, what is rather disturbing in this particular instance is the rather drastic outcome. I mean, although bird strikes aren't that common, they do occur and are dealt with effectively. I mean, obviously, we all remember Captain Sullenberger landing in the river in New York. That was a case where two engines were wiped out in one go. That's extremely unusual. And so I wonder if that happened here. And if it didn't, then there's probably no real explanation for why it developed in the way it did.
A couple of people we know, at least one person, did survive this crash. What can make that happen when a crash like this sort of would kill everybody on board except for one or two?
Well, I think it was probably the cabin crew that were sitting right at the back of the aircraft in the crew seats, and it just was pure good fortune in their case that that they were in the bit that got away with it the lightest. what interests me particularly about this particular accident is that, there's a whole chapter in my book about the safety culture in Korea, which didn't used to be very good. But the government made some efforts to really put into practice, best practice in Korean aviation. And so I'm personally very interested to see what the outcome is, to see whether or not that's been effective or whether there were any cultural issues.